being at that stage at Arsenal in terms of the fan base being hurt by going out of competitions. I think he's been one of the shining lights along with Ethan Nwaneri that actually look at this side and think, yeah, we didn't have the best of summer, but perhaps if we did, we wouldn't have seen some of those shining lights. So you've got to try and look at things positively when you can. And when the performances are there, you've got to big him up, because I thought he's been outstanding. For an 18-year-old to come in at a position that he hasn't
been like that as well.
Up, in a game of that magnitude, North London derby, and I thought he was one of the players of the match. So there's definitely some positives, bruv. The other thing I'll say is I think that Gabriel, I said this to judges on the channel yesterday, I honestly believe he's been Mikel Arteta's best signing, and people will point towards Martin Odegaard, Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, Ben White, but I just think Gabriel for 27 million, been there since day dot, one of his first signings, has got better, has ironed out some of those kind of mistakes and the bozo moments people were calling him early days. I think he's complemented Saliba wonderfully well. And I have to say, I think he's actually outshone Saliba in the last 2 seasons. So I think we have to be realistic.
One of our best goal scorers as well, Dad.
Bro, I can't believe it. Every time he goes out for a corner, it is literally like flipping a coin. Is he going to get there or not? I've been so impressed with him. So I think they deserve a mention, both Gabriel and Lewis Skelly, bro.
Do you think Gabriel's underrated? Because I think he's starting to get his plaudits with Arsenal fans. But I agree with what you're saying in that I think he's got a case to be our best player that Mikel Arteta signed. I think he's got rid of those bozo genes. But I think because people remember what he used to kind of be like, he's not really getting the clout he deserves. Of course, Saliba's great. But I feel when we talk about Arsenal and winning trophies and things, we always sit there and say, you know what, the likes of Saka and Saliba might depart. But I think people leave Gabriel out of that conversation because he's a bit older. Do you think he slept on in the Arsenal fan base and in football?
I think he slept on by rival fans as well. I think they're starting to
100%.
realise how good he is from corners. I've got a lot of people on my channel from other clubs representing them saying, yeah, beast from corners, monster. But it ain't just that. You know, I think sometimes what he's got going against him is that he doesn't quite have the credit in the bank of Saliba. He doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing on the eye as Saliba. But you need that. You need that monster. You need that absolute monster. And I personally believe that they complement each other. I think Saliba's got the ball playing ability and he looks so calm and composed on the ball. Gabriel, as much as I quite like him on the ball as well, is that kind of Range Rover when he's the Bentley. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He was a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. I think what Gabriel is that Range Rover who just absolutely goes through players. So I feel for me, he's a player that perhaps people might look at as being rash or a little bit extreme at times. Because he did that in his early days, people are now still believing he does that now. He hasn't done that for the last 3 years. He's been phenomenal. He really has. And I think he's underrated. I think he's a player that we'll look back to in this period of time and think, wow, I think we underappreciated Gabriel. We were so fixated on Saliba because Gabriel's, in my opinion, been as good defensively as him, and he gets goals from corners. So he's been pivotal in this side. There's so many games we wouldn't have won without Gabriel this season. Like, there really isn't. Like, you look at the games that we've been winning and where he's been scoring. It's not been like we've been 4-0 up, 3-0 up. It's been like a 2-1, a 1-0, even a draw sometimes.
I was just about to say that.
No, I'm saying, like, he's been really important, his goals.
Do you, like, how can I make it make sense? Yeah, like, do you when I think of Gabriel, I think mentality monster. I think, you know, you see it in the North London derbies. You're on Twitter. You saw everybody tweeting how he's got man of the matches. You can see it with your eyes, yeah. Do you question the mentality of our squad? And if you do, yeah, do you think there's anybody that has the mentality that you're looking for? Because I think you mentioned Lewis Skelly. I think the mentality, obviously, we could be here all day about his technical level, how good he's going to be, all of that jazz. But I think his mentality is spot on for the North London derby and games before that. And I think Gabriel as well. I also think Benjamin White's got it. That's one thing I'll give Kai Havertz. He might not have the quality I want to see up front, but I do think he's a bit of a shithouser. But there are 4 or 5 names. Like, where are you at with the mentality of our squad, if you are questioning that?
I have questioned it. Not just this season, if I'm honest. You have to question it when you don't get across the line, man. You have to question it.
Key word, across the line, folks.
Facts, yeah, I mean, look, Mikel Arteta's got to look at his mentality as well, and I quite like some of the stuff he says. I don't quite like some of the other stuff he says, but when I look at the actual pitch, that's where it comes from. The manager can only do so much because he can't get all 11 of the players to be getting to that elite mentality if we're not winning stuff. Now, you've got the winning mentality side of things. You've got players like Kieran Tierney, Kai Havertz, Jorginho that have won trophies in the game. So you've got them that have got the mentality. You also look at different sorts of mentality. You've got the mentality of Ethan Nwaneri and Lewis Skelly, who know what it's like to be an Arsenal player. They know what it's like to be at this club.
They got Saka as well.
Bukayo Saka as well. I think Gabriel Martinelli's a part of that now because he's been so young and brought up in that mentality at the club as well. I think Ben White and Gabriel and Saliba are the other three that come to mind, because if I had to pass that armband around outside of Odegaard, I'd be giving it to those three, because I think they all understand what they're there for. And I think the old school in me likes a captain that barks out orders, and Gabriel does that. For me, I would be
So I look at
more
Rice.
happy to see those kind of guys looking at with the captain armband. Declan Rice is another one. So I do question the mentality as a whole, but I think there's actually, looking individually, a lot more leaders out there than perhaps we give him credit for. And I think Odegaard is definitely a leader. He's not my ideal captain because I like the old school, but definitely can't say that it's been a bad decision by Mikel Arteta. You know, he leads by example. He's kind of the role model on the pitch. He leads by the press, and I think we missed him when he was out. I don't think he's quite been the same, DG. I'm sure we'll touch on it, but
no, let's do that now, man. Why is that for you as well? While we're on Odegaard as well, man.
I've been really disappointed with him this season, man. And people might think that's harsh because obviously he's been out for a while.
I think of recent. I'm with you recently. I've looking at Odegaard like, come on, bro.
Look, I've got to be real. I think it is the reason I don't want to excuse it, but the reason I can only put it down to is I have to pinpoint the injury and the illness, because that's the only thing I can think that it is. Coming back from that,
and he's a dad now as well, man. He ain't getting no sleep.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like the only thing about that is they've got like, they're multi-millionaires. Do you know what I mean? They get their.
It's not like if me or you know had a kid. They got nannies and that, man.
They get their nannies looking after their kids while they're sort of concentrating on their work. But I will say, I do think there's definitely a change in things when that happens in your life. I've not got kids, but I imagine it completely changes. But I will say this, I think when you look at what the injury was, it wasn't like he was out for a couple of weeks of a hamstring. You know, it was quite a nasty one. He's still got to try and get himself on track. I think he knows himself. He's not quite right. I think there's definitely a little bit about the illness and sickness that he's had. And I don't know how you can be ill for this long, but he certainly doesn't look right for me still whenever I watch him. But there is something inside there saying that individually you've got to look at your own performances and stop making excuses because we need him. And there's just a lot of touches on the ball I'm seeing. Like, come on, like, release it earlier. Why are you spinning back round and starting again? Why are you keeping it safe? Is that a manager style thing? Or is it you just not quite with it or not quite confident enough to thread that ball through? So I think there's definitely a culmination, to be fair. And I do think that we will see the best of him again. It's not like Odegaard's now done. I just don't think he's 100% fit yet. I don't think he's 100% in the rhythm, and momentum's key in football. So I think that we will see the best of him again, but I just think it might take another few weeks. But I'm a big fan of him, bro. Big fan.
You can't not be, man. Like, the man's wonder guard, isn't it? Like, I agree with what you said in that fundamentally I need him to step up. I do obviously think Saka being out and injuries and illnesses, it all plays a part. But crucially, like you said there, at some point, it's about your performance. And I know you're not Declan Rice, you're not Tony Adams, you're not an Henry kind of leader, but I have expectations of Odegaard because 9 times out of 10 he's got that, yeah. But I also want to ask you, do you, as stupid as this might sound, yeah, do you think there's too much of a creative burden on Martin Odegaard? I only say that because as much as Odegaard's the creative king and the press king and all of that, that's one man, there's 10 other players. And I also feel that there should be creativity all over the pitch, because what if he has an off day? But where are you at with that?
Yeah, I think we put a lot of pressure on him to be the guy to thread the balls through. He's actually only got 3 assists this season, which is
madness for
quite worrying, really, for a guy of his level. And look, I will say Saka being out has not helped him. I'm not saying we're a one man side, but when you look at how you defend against Bukayo Saka, you have to put 2 men on him, which then creates space for Martin Odegaard. Now we've got Gabby Jesus, who's now injured, Sterling, who's not been the same, and Trossard, who's sometimes out there. Ethan Nwaneri was out there and it wasn't quite the same either, even though he played well and scored the goal. I'm thinking, yeah, there's 2 men on Odegaard now more available. They're not giving him as much space. It's much easier to play against Arsenal because you haven't got to worry about Saka. You're definitely not worrying about Trossard or Martinelli at the moment with the level they're playing at, right?
I don't laugh, I'll cry, man.
So now it's going to be like, let's just stifle Odegaard because then they won't get anything through. Now, he has managed to create chances and we've managed to create chances, and I still stand by the amount that we've created this season. We should have won more games, 100%. And we should have won
still been in the FA Cup, mate.
Should have still been in the FA Cup. And when we've won games, DG, we should have won them by more. So the other night, I looked at the game and I thought, how was that 2-1, man? Like, we should have battered them by 4 or 5, but we haven't got the kind of killers at the moment in the front line, and that's where we need to now strengthen in the next 2 windows for me, bro.
No, I think you're bang on the money, yeah. And you just made me have a thought because I do think, and again, you do content, you speak with a bunch of different creators, and you're obviously looking at your live chat, yeah. But you know how you said we should have scored more goals. I'm in agreement with you. I do think Arsenal fans, we get into this trap of like we have 20 plus shots, like 4 or 5 on target, and they'll say Mikel Arteta coached the 3-0, which I hear it, but ultimately the hardest thing to do is put the ball in the back of the net. And at the start of this video, which I agree with, you mentioned our front three. So it's like, how do you look at it? Like, is it just a case of we've got a lack of talent? Does Arteta need to do more from a creative point of view? Or because of the summer and where we face ourselves, have we signed up for this, if I'm honest?
Yeah, people have asked me before, is our front line just rubbish? The answer is no. The front line's fine if you're going for a top 6 or a top 4, but we don't want to do that. We want
Want to get over the
our
line.
front line to be getting across the line in the title and Champions Leagues, and I think everybody knows it ain't quite ready. That I think we've got a team at the moment that has departments, that has elite players, that has great players, that has superb players, that has title-winning players. I think it's also got departments that has got top 4 areas of the team, and I think our front line is one of them. You know, if I said to you right now, we've got to get this team into Europe, and I said, who are my players? And you say you've got Jesus, Sterling, Trossard, Martinelli, Havertz, I'd be like, yeah, cool. I reckon I could do that, you know. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to get across the line against the Cities and Liverpools of this stage. And
Silverware, man.
yeah, bruv. Look, I'm not saying they won't win us anything. I believe we're still good enough to win a trophy. The problem we've got is we're out of both the domestic ones, it seems now. So we have to now go for one of the big boys, right? And that seems like what we've been trying to go for the best part of 5 years and haven't been able to get across the line. I think if I said to you right now, what do we need? I think we actually need all 4 of the front 4, a player in each of those positions. Not just all to start, but I
We
think
need a
we've
bigger
got
squad,
Saka
man.
and Odegaard. Yeah, we've got a Saka and Odegaard playing. We don't have any backup for Saka and Odegaard, in my opinion. Maybe Ethan, but he's still young. And then we've got, I think, a couple of centre forwards and a winger that we've got to go and get in. So that's where I'm at. I don't know that we will do that, but across the next 2 windows, I think we've got to try and get at least three attackers in the window. And yeah, that's kind of harsh, but it's ruthless. But you've kind of got to be at this stage, in my opinion. You know, you've got to be looking at Jesus' injuries. You've got to be looking at that Sterling deal, thinking, is that something we want to extend? Not for me. Obviously, Trossard's got a contract issue. Is he going to stay or is he going to go? Could be that we're left with with just Martinelli, Havertz, Odegaard, and Saka, and you can't have 4 attackers in your front, like 5 positions, so or 4 positions. So for me, that's got to be looked at in the next two windows, bruv.
How confident are you in the front three? Yeah, because I'm with you. It's like I feel our attackers, when I kind of strip back the hype of North London Derby and all of that jazz, I would say we still got the same issues. We didn't convert as many chances as we could. It's another case of a team gets one chance, which was Son, and they bag. And ultimately, we're not putting the ball in the back of the net. But it's a weird one because I don't think Havertz is the difference maker and he shouldn't be leading the line and all of that. But I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think he's amazing, but I don't think he's bad. I don't think Trossard is horrible, but I don't think he's a starter. And as you've kind of said, we're at where we're at with Raheem Sterling. But it's like, do you have any faith that they'll got any of them will go in a run of form? Do you have any faith that we're actually going to act in the January market? Because I'm sure you've done videos on the Sesko stuff. Cold water's been poured on that. Like, do we need to if we want to win silverware?
I think this January is an absolute must. If we do nothing in this
100%.
January, I think what we've done is we've waved the white flag and tapped out and said we're going to stick to what we've got. What we do is what we do, and we'll go again next year. And I don't like that mentality. I
That's
don't like
crazy
that
if we do that.
attitude. I think we've dropped our standards. So we absolutely have to. And I think we're going to. We're leaving it late again, DG. Like, we know we're over halfway. The window is open. Not that you would know it if you're a Gooner, right? But there's a lot of options. And, you know, a lot of people have said to me, yeah, but who'd you get? It's hard. Are they available? How can you get anyone in January? Well, Manchester City are about to get their 3rd or 4th signing over the line.
Yeah,
So
man, they're
there is.
players. And they gave a 9-year deal to Haaland. They're doing stuff.
Oh, bro, they're definitely not guilty, by the way, if they're doing that. Anyway, that's
Facts.
another podcast. But look, I will say this. There are players out there, whether it's Victor Gyökeres, whether it's Victor Osimhen, whether it's a Sesko or a Dusan Vlahovic, there are strikers that are available. Whether you want a winger, if you want to look in the Premier League, you've got Semenyo, you've got Mbuemo, you've got what's his name, Kudus, you've got
He's even linked
Cunha,
with Wisa of Brentford as well yesterday or day before.
Visser and Mbuemo. I mean, 2 very good players. João Pedro's another centre forward you could look at getting. So there's
That's a
definite
shout. Brighton
Premier
got a
League
couple
players,
players.
you know. They've got some good players, the Premier League. You want to go overseas, then you go and get Ademola Lookman. You go and look at getting somebody in the front line out of who I've just mentioned. If Nico Williams is available, you go try and activate that release clause. So there's definitely players out there. I won't have this, we can't sign anyone because no one's available. It's a superb window for opportunity. So we have to go and get something done. I think we'll get one. I don't think we'll get 2 or 3. And I will say this, I don't think it will be one that we are blown away by. I don't think it will be a signing where we're all of us are going, oh my God, I've just got really
level
excited.
raiser type stuff.
You know
Yeah,
what
I'm with you with
I
that.
don't think it's going to be a Victor Gyökeres. I think it could be a Dusan Vlahovic. I don't think it's going to be a Victor Gyökeres. It could be a Sesko, but I'm still going to stand by it. I think Victor Gyökeres would be much more exciting than Benjamin Sesko. It's not like I hate on Benjamin Sesko. I don't know enough about him. I haven't seen enough of him, right? But at 2021, is that a huge upgrade on Havertz? I don't know that it is. So we have to go and, for me, make Havertz that rotated piece, not the absolute definite striker, because he's getting a lot of stick, DG, and look, I don't condone like all that crap online. I
going
hate
too far. Yeah. I mean, you can criticize the player, but all the DMs and getting at his family, any decent human being is not on that.
It's just an embarrassment, if I'm honest, to the human race. When I look at what Havertz is doing on the pitch, I can understand the frustration, and I think he can. I think he's an honest guy. I don't think he sits there going, "Why does everyone have a go at me?" You know, he's missing from 2 yards. He's missing from a yard. He's missed the penalty to put us out of the competition. He's getting a little bit of heat at the moment. It's part of being a footballer.
Feeling the pressure.
With it. He's got to feel the pressure, of course, but he's got to deal with it. And I think that we can do him a favour, because the last thing we want to do is hang him out to dry and say, "Well, sorry, mate, you're the only 9 we got, so on you go." Actually, what we do is take him out of the firing line and say, "Do you know what? We're going to bring the Sesko in, or Vlahovic in, or Gyökeres in, and you're going to fight for it with this guy, and it ain't going to build the pressure on you. Yeah, you're on 65 million and you're on one of our highest paid wages. That means you've got to be a massive part of this squad. But if you're coming on, as Trossard was doing not too long ago, and you're banging in goals, the fans will love you again." So, look, the best thing he could have done was score the other night. It didn't happen for him. Anytime you score against Tottenham, you're a hero, right? So that's the best thing that could have happened to him. We've got games coming up where he's got to get opportunities to score goals, and he has to. So, look, I still think we need a centre forward and a winger. I don't think I'm one of these guys who says just bring one attacker in and we're good to go. I still feel we need a lot more. And I think the summer will actually be quite an interesting one. I really do. And the reason I'll say that, I don't want to go too far ahead because it's still...
No, go ahead, man. We want to hear your thoughts, bro.
But I'm looking at the summer thinking there's a really interesting rebuild potentially that could happen. And I'm not talking about starting to rebuild an 11. I'm starting to rebuild the squad, because there's a lot of opportunities for us to look at the futures of certain players. And I'm not too fussed about the goalkeeper. We all know it's going to be Raya, the backup goalkeeper. I don't know if we're going to keep Neto. That means we might be in for another keeper. The left back scenario has got to be sorted, because we've got about 15 and Miles Lewis-Skelly looks the best one.
People even say was there a need to sign Calafiori.
Calafiori and Miles Lewis-Skelly, maybe they're the 2 left backs, and we move on Zinchenko and Tierney. We look at Kivior's future. We look at Tomiyasu's future. We look at Partey and Jorginho. And I think we have to be honest and say that along with Tavares, Lokonga, Fabio Vieira, we have to look at Gabriel Jesus and Trossard as well, because if they're not going to sign new deals and they're not fit enough, then we're going to have to move them on. That's quite a lot of players.
ACL as well. So,